Ever feel like your brain's about to hit, like, refresh?
Oh, tell me about it.
From sheer overload, I mean. Between deadlines and that giant to-do list and did I turn the stove off?
Right.
It's a miracle we function some days.
It really is. And the thing is, everyone's dealing with stress, right? But it's funny, it can feel so lonely.
Totally. Okay, so that's why I'm excited for this deep dive.
Yeah.
We're looking at managing stress is easy, actually.
Yeah.
Even the title has me intrigued. The promise here is like straightforward techniques, no, meditation retreats required.
Practical stuff. I liked it. You know, what I find interesting is there's so much advice out there on stress. But this source cuts through the noise.
Right.
It actually gets into why the basics work, which I think is key to actually sticking with it, you know?
Right. Like, we get it. You're busy. Here's the streamlined version.
Exactly.
And speaking of streamlined, they kick off with breathing.
Okay.
Which I know it sounds almost too simple.
It does. But think about it. When you're stressed, what changes first? You start breathing really fast, shallow.
True.
It's our body, right? Going into that primal fight or flight mode.
It's true.
Deep, controlled breathing, on the other hand, it's like you're hitting the override button.
Oh, I like that.
Telling your system, like, false alarm, we're good here.
I love that. And they don't just say breathe deeply either. They actually give us a technique. The 4-7-8 count.
Oh, yeah.
In for 4, hold for 7, out for 8. Have you tried this one?
Yeah, there's a reason it's been around so long. It's not just some random count. It taps into how our nervous system responds to rhythm and those long exhales.
There's a science to it. See, this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about, okay? So we've got the breathing down, but then they get into moving your body. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, isn't being stressed the whole reason I avoid the gym?
Right, but they're not talking about intense workouts here. It's more about, you know how stress gets stuck in our bodies?
Oh, for sure.
Like your shoulders are up to your ears after a tough day. Even small movements can release that.
It's like literally shaking it off. I'm imagining a mini dance party at my desk.
Right.
What about you? Your go-to stress buster move?
Honestly, I'm a big fan of a brisk walk. Something about being outside, getting fresh air, clears my head.
Yeah.
Plus, there's research on it. It's as effective as some types of meditation for anxiety.
There we go. Actionable, but backed by science. I like it. Now, this source, they dive into the mental side of stress too. And get this, they compare an overwhelmed mind to, read for it, a pinball machine.
Light, I can see it.
Right.
All those thoughts clanging around. No wonder we feel frazzled.
And their suggestion for that pinball chaos,
Yeah.
get those thoughts out of your head.
Exactly. They talk about journaling or talking things through to get that sense of control back. It's like you're taking all those jumbled thoughts and putting them neatly on a shelf.
Organized.
Yeah.
And here's a radical thought they propose. Talking to yourself.
Okay.
I know. It sounds a little out there, but
Hey.
hear me out.
Go on.
We talk ourselves through stuff all the time, right?
Me do.
Saying it out loud, it just helps you process it sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes, you just need to hear yourself say it.
It's like a built-in therapist almost.
Yeah.
Now, switching gears a bit, the source talks about finding your spike.
Your spike.
Yes. Remember when we were kids, there was always that one thing we were obsessed with?
Oh, yeah, totally.
The days of pure focus.
Yeah.
Right? That's what they're getting at, that childhood passion, the activity that absorbs your attention, gives you a break from, well, reality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For me, it's 100% beaking. The second I'm elbow deep in flour and sugar, the world just melts away. What about you? What's your spike?
You know, it might sound cliche, but getting lost in a good book, that does it for me every time. I can totally immerse myself in a different world, and for a little while, stress just disappears. It's true. The source even connects this to flow state, that feeling where you're so engrossed, you lose track of time.
Exactly. It's that effortless concentration, which, and there's research on this, has tons of benefits. Reduces stress, boosts creativity.
This is why I love these deep dives.
Okay,
so we've got the breathing, the moving, mental decluttering, and our spikes. But then they hit us with the one thing we all sacrifice when life gets hectic: sleep.
It's true, and it's ironic because good sleep is probably the most powerful stress buster we have.
It's like closing all the tabs on your computer, clean slate for your brain.
Exactly, and yet we treat it like it's optional, when it's really the foundation.
100%.
Yeah.
And they talk about having a calming bedtime routine, which honestly, I'm terrible at. I am the queen of scrolling on my phone until my eyes are burning.
Oh, yeah.
But they make a good case for why it matters. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, think about it. We spend all day bombarded with information, stimulation. It's no wonder our brains have trouble shutting off. A routine signals to your body, okay, time to wind down, out of go mode, and into rest mode.
So it's not just about how much sleep, but the quality of it.
Exactly. And the best part is, a relaxing routine doesn't have to be complicated. It's about finding what works for you. Dimming the lights, reading a book, warm bath, anything to quiet the mind, relax the body.
Like hitting the do not disturb on your whole system.
Precisely. And speaking of things that make us feel good, the source emphasizes laughter, too.
Okay, I'm a big believer in laughter is the best medicine. But like, is that actually, scientifically accurate?
Well, there's definitely truth to it. Laughter releases endorphins, those feel-good chemicals.
Yeah.
And it actually reduces stress hormones, like cortisol.
Oh, okay.
It's like a 1-2 punch against stress.
So watching that stand-up comedy special, not procrastination, it's self-care.
Exactly.
I like the sound of that, but on a more serious note, they also talk about something I've always struggled with, learning to say no.
Yes. The art of setting boundaries, which lots of people struggle with, especially now when it feels like everyone's glorifying busy.
It's true. We wear it like a badge of honor. But this source makes a really good point. They say that overcommitting, it's not just bad for our sanity, it actually makes us less effective.
It's like having 20 tabs open on your computer and wondering why it's running so slow.
Oh, yeah.
Every commitment, every yes takes energy and focus. Spread yourself too thin. Everything suffers.
And then we're even more stressed because we're not doing anything well. So how do we get better at saying no? It could be so uncomfortable, like you're letting people down.
The key is to reframe it. Think of it as self-respect for yourself and the people you're saying no to. When you overcommit, you're not doing anyone any favors.
That's true.
You're more likely to get burnt out or do subpar work or even have to cancel at the last minute.
That is a really good point.
It's about having realistic expectations and prioritizing what truly matters. And sometimes that means saying no to something good so you can say yes to something great.
100%.
And another thing this source stresses is there's no one right way to manage stress. You have to find what works for you.
Because what helps me unwind might make you want to pull your hair out.
Exactly.
Like, I find podcasts so soothing, but I know people who are like, turn that off, it's too much.
Right. It's about tuning into your own needs. The source encourages people to experiment, whether it's that 4-7-8 breathing we talked about, finding a creative outlet, or just taking 5 minutes to sit in silence.
It's just to be.
Yes.
And not to beat ourselves up if we fall off the wagon sometimes.
Of course.
Because life
happens.
Stress gets the best of us.
Yeah.
It's more about approaching ourselves with compassion and just coming back to these practices.
Exactly. It's not about being perfect. It's about building a self-care routine that just becomes a natural part of your life. Not something you only do when you're already feeling overwhelmed.
It's about making yourself and your well-being a priority. And I love that this source really emphasizes that it doesn't have to be complicated. It's about those small things you can do every day.
Exactly. It's the little things done consistently that make all the difference.
It's out of curiosity. What's one small thing you do regularly to manage stress? And you can't say, this podcast.
Well, aside from our little deep dives here, I find that if I can start my day with even a few minutes of journaling, it helps tremendously. It's a chance to clear my head, process any lingering thoughts or feelings, and just set a positive intention for the day ahead.
I might have to steal that.
You should.
Now, speaking of stealing.
Yeah.
This source totally stole my thunder on the whole laughter is the best medicine thing.
Yeah.
But they did bring up a really interesting point. How we can use these techniques preventatively. Not just when we're already feeling stressed.
Yes. Building stress resilience.
Exactly.
It's like building up your immune system.
Oh, I like that.
By doing these things regularly, you're making yourself stronger so that when challenges inevitably come up,
you can handle them.
Exactly.
So instead of waiting for stress to knock us down, we're like proactively building ourselves up mentally, physically. We're taking control of our experience.
Yes.
And creating a life that feels more balanced, more fulfilling, and way less stressful. Which, let's face it, is something we could all use a little more of these days.
Couldn't agree more. Well, there's definitely some truth to that, I think. Laughter, it triggers these endorphins, those feel-good chemicals, and it actually lowers the stress hormones, like cortisol.
Okay.
So it's like a 1-2 punch against stress.
So, watching that stand-up special, it's not procrastinating, it's self-care.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
But, okay, shifting gears a bit. They talk about something I've always struggled with. Learning to say no.
The art of setting boundaries. A lot of people struggle with that, especially I think in our culture where being busy is almost like a badge of honor.
Oh, it's so true. It's like we're bragging about it.
Yeah.
But the source makes a really interesting point here. They say that overcommitting, it's not just, bad for our sanity, but it makes us less effective overall.
Totally. Like imagine you have 20 tabs open on your computer and you're wondering why it's running so slow.
Oh, yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Every commitment, yes. It takes energy and focus. You spread yourself too thin and nothing gets your full attention.
And then we just end up more stressed because we're not showing up as our best selves anyway. So how do we get better at saying no? It can feel so awkward. You feel like you're letting people down.
I think it's about reframing it, thinking of it as self-respect for you and for the people you're saying no to. When you overcommit, you're actually not doing anyone any favors.
That's true.
You're more likely to burn out, or the quality of your work suffers, or you have to back out at the last minute.
That's a really good point.
It's about realistic expectations and deciding what really, truly matters. And sometimes that means saying no to something good, so you can say yes to something great.
Yes, 100%. And I like how this source emphasizes, there's no one-size-fits-all approach to stress management. It's about finding what works for you.
Exactly. What helps you unwind might make me want to run for the hills.
Totally. Like, I find podcasts so calming.
Yeah.
But I know people who find them way too stimulating.
Right. It's personal preference. The source really encourages experimentation, whether it's that 4-7-8 breathing we talked about or something creative or even just 5 minutes of silence.
Just being present.
Yes. And being kind to ourselves, even if we've, fall off the wagon sometime.
Oh, absolutely. Life happens.
It does.
Stress happens.
Yeah.
And it's about approaching it all with self-compassion and just gently bringing ourselves back to these practices.
Exactly. It's not about being perfect. It's about building a sustainable self-care routine. That's just a natural part of your life, not something you only do in a crisis.
It's about making yourself and your well-being a priority. And I love how much this source emphasizes, it doesn't have to be this big, complicated thing.
And it really doesn't.
It's the small things done consistently that make a difference.
Absolutely. The little things are everything.
Okay, so I'm curious, what's one small thing that you do regularly that helps you manage stress? And you can't say this podcast.
Well, besides our deep dives here, I have to say, starting my day with even a few minutes of journaling,
oh yeah,
it makes a huge difference. Just clearing my head, processing any thoughts or feelings, setting a good intention for the day.
I love that. I might have to try that.
Yeah.
Speaking of stealing, though, they totally stole my thunder with the laughter is the best medicine line.
Yeah.
But I did really like the point they made about using these techniques preventatively, not just when we're already stressed out.
Oh, that's so important. Building stress resilience.
Yes.
It's like building up your immune system.
I love that analogy.
By doing these things regularly, we're essentially strengthening our ability to cope with challenges when they come up, which they inevitably do.
So instead of waiting for stress to knock us down, we're proactively building ourselves up.
Exactly.
Mentally, physically.
Precisely. It's about being in control of our experience.
Yes. Creating a life that feels balanced, more fulfilling,
yes,
and way less stressful.
Yeah.
Overall, which honestly, I think we could all use a little bit of these days.
I think we all could.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into managing stress is easy, actually, I have to say, I'm walking away feeling surprisingly hopeful.
Yeah.
Like maybe we can get a handle on this whole stress thing.
I think that's what I like about this source. It's not promising some miracle cure.
Right.
It's more like a reminder that we have more control over this than we think.
Yeah. It's about finding the right tools and actually using them.
Exactly.
And not just when we're at the breaking point.
Yeah.
But using them before that happens.
Preventatively.
Yes. Flossing for our minds.
I like that.
And just floss it. It doesn't have to be this big ordeal.
No, not at all.
It's those small things that you can fit into your day.
Small things done consistently.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this and feeling inspired, what's one thing you can do today to prioritize your well-being? Maybe it's trying out that 4-7-8 breathing. Maybe you dust off that old guitar. Or maybe you just give yourself permission to take a break. Step away from everything for a few minutes.
Sometimes that's all you need.
Seriously, whatever it is, remember that you deserve to feel your best.
You absolutely do.
And sometimes the most powerful thing is just choosing yourself.
So true.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, I think it's time for us to take our own advice and go enjoy a little stress-free time.
Yeah.
Until next time, keep diving deep and remember, you've got this.